evening, everyone. I'm David Johnson of Transform Ed Consulting, and I might as well start right off with a plug. Dear friend and colleague Cassandra Williams is the brains behind Education Innovations 360 Degrees, and she allows us to use her channel. So thanks, Cassandra. Our guest tonight is Lisa Norwood Williams. How you doing, Lisa?
I am doing well, David. How are you?
I'm fine. You and I go back a while, and
A long way back.
I haven't seen you since I don't know how many years, and looks like we both got a little grayer.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit grayer. And I didn't know you had grown children. I didn't know that.
3 of them.
Oh, wow. Well, let me read your intro. Lisa Norwood Williams in Phoenix, Arizona, is a veteran educator with over 24 years experience serving in various roles from classroom teacher, interventionist, staff development coach, and 10 years as an elementary school principal, where she moved 2 schools out of school improvement status within 1 year. Currently, she is a district director for a nonprofit focusing on CTE pathways for high school students. She is also a leadership coach, academic associate for aspiring principals in the Educational Leadership Program at Arizona State University. In June 2023, Ms. Norwood Williams launched I Lead Education Services, LLC. In this entrepreneurial role, she is collaborating with the Arizona Department of Education to support new principals. Ms. Norwood Williams holds a Bachelor of Business Administration Management degree from Henderson State University in Arkansas and a master's degree in Educational Administration and Supervision from Arizona State University. You've come a long way, ma'am. Tell us how you got here. What drove you to be an educator?
Oh, man, it's been a journey. I happened into education. As you see, my degree is in business management, so I managed restaurants for a long time. And in fact, I was a food and beverage manager at Sky Harbor Airport.
No kidding, when you first moved to Arizona.
Yeah, that was right after college, actually. And then moved back to California in 96, found education there. And just kind of went with it, took a break and came right back to it, and then moved back to Arizona, and it's been all education ever since.
So you got bit by the education bug.
I did.
Now, I found it confusing, so I wonder if others might find it confusing. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And how did you attend school in Arkansas and then live in California and then wind up in Arizona? Piece that together for us, would you?
I am a California girl through and through. I am an original Valley girl. So I was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley, moved to Texas for a brief stint for college, came back home, and then went to Arkansas because that's where my family is from. And I finished up college there. Moved to Arizona because my then husband was here working with his family. We stayed here a little bit, and then my grandmother got sick, and we moved back to California, stayed there for 12 more years, and then found our way back to Arizona. So just kind of a little bit of back and forth, but California is home, will always be home. I still have family there. It will always be near and dear to my heart.
And we must mention something about the Delta Cafe on your wall.
I am a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I am a member of the Tempe Alumni Chapter here in Tempe, Arizona. And I have been a member of Delta Sigma Theta since 2017.
Wow, you've done a lot, Lisa. Well, I'm glad to have you here as our guest. Our topic tonight is titled The Importance of Strong Leadership Teams. And we have 3 subtopics: understand the vision, work collaboratively and cohesively, be willing to do the work, motivate others. Where would you like to start, Lisa?
We have to start with understanding the vision. You can't have a strong leadership team if they don't understand the vision. And it's not necessarily my vision, it's the vision that we all have for the school. So
could you speak a little more about vision? For example, I have been in situations where I was expected to arrive with a vision. And I said, wait a minute, like you just explained, vision comes from our collective input and our own collaboration and consensus on where we should go, what we should do, and how we should look. So, could you speak a little bit about vision?
Absolutely. And as a principal, I have my own personal vision for the school, but it's not about my personal vision. It's about the, like you said, the collective vision. So your leadership team needs to be able to buy into that. I want them to have their own vision because I'm growing them as leaders, but collectively and collaboratively, what are we going to do together? What's the vision that we're going to sell to our teachers? What's the vision we're going to sell to our families? What's the vision we're going to sell to our students?
Lisa, there's an expression, and I can't get it right now, about buying into something. And then you even use the term sell. Should we need to get people to buy into something and then sell that vision or sell that idea to others?
You know, that's where my business management experience comes in, because in certain schools you do have to buy and sell all of it, because they've been in that environment that may be unproductive, that may be ineffective, and so they're comfortable there. And if there's not a vision, everybody's been operating on their own. So in order for them to understand where we want to be, you do have to sell that to them. And so that's where your leadership team comes in, because I'm the principal. They're just going to do it because I'm in charge, right? I need my leadership team to be an extension of me, and I need them to be able to sell that vision to teachers so that they want to do it. Because in the initial stages, you are selling them the vision.
But well, let's talk about
you work with them enough so that they do it on their own.
Well, let's talk about leadership team. How do you define a leadership team in a school, at a school level?
So at a school level, for me personally, I had my core leadership team, like my coaches, assistant principals, whatever I was assigned, right? And then I have a site-based leadership team, and that's representation from every department of the school. But that core leadership team, they were my right and left hand. They were the ones that helped me push out whatever initiatives were coming down from the district, whatever we needed to do to get our students where they needed to be. That team was the group of people.
Now, here's something I know each state is different regarding administrators, particularly at the elementary school level. How many administrators would you have in your building?
Ideally, and when I first started, I had 4. I had 3 people plus myself. I had 2 instructional coaches, I had an assistant principal, and then I had myself. And we were rock stars. When I tell you we made major improvement in our school, it took us 3 years, but we turned that school around in 3 years. But we were working hard, and I had the right people on my team. That's another important piece that's not on the slide. You have to have the right people on the bus. Now, I've had leadership teams where I did not have the right team members, and you coach them to be who they need to be to help you execute the vision, or you help them find other places where they might be better suited. Right. So having the right folks on the bus is super important.
Now, you mentioned earlier you'd have a site leadership team. How do you fill those positions? Volunteers, recruiting, finger pointing? you just voluntold for this job? How do you fill those positions?
So, and it's a combination of all of that. So as a principal, I'm always looking to see who are the next leaders. So if my assistant principal leaves, who's going to fill his shoes? If my instructional coach leaves, who's going to fill her shoes? And so I'm looking for people that have that natural ability to be leaders. And I look for people like that, and I ask them. And then I see people who look like they have the potential, but they're
Mhm.
kind of hiding in the background. And
Mhm.
then I ask for volunteers.
Mhm.
And sometimes you get people, no one's ever asked them if they
Mm.
wanted to be part of the leadership team. So even just giving them the courtesy of asking them and allowing them to decide, that's huge for some people. And
Mhm.
those are the people that are going to step up and they're going to do the work.
Mhm.
So just a variety of different things. It depends on the campus. This depends on the culture of the campus, and who's buying in, right? Who believes in our dream? Who believes in this vision to get
Mhm.
our school to where it needs to be?
Lisa, you just touched on another topic that I would like to explore a little further. Ah, vision, principles. What would be the average tenure of a principal?
Ooh, nowadays,
Mhm.
I would say that has changed. If you can have a principal to school for 5 years,
Mhm.
you're doing great.
All right,
Like
there's a
it,
reason I asked you that.
yeah.
Some teachers, some school persons take the belief that I can just wait this person out. She's here for a year, she's here for two years, and she has her sights set somewhere else anyway. She just needs to add this to her resume, and I'll just wait her out. The next person will have another vision, and it might be entirely different. So, how do you manage those ideas and those beliefs that you're just there temporarily and I can just wait you out?
So you honor them and you acknowledge them because they can be true. But the goal is to almost as a principal, you're going in there with a purpose. You got, if the people are not, if they don't buy into your purpose, you're going to have a short term there.
Hmm.
And personally, I've experienced that. And it's tough because you can see and you put things in place, and we know the research. The research says it takes 3 to 5 years to completely turn a school around. And my experience has been in those failing schools,
Mm-hmm.
and they're failing for a reason. And if you've hired me to come in, that means you want me to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
But if half the teachers aren't willing to do the work and they're comfortable being in that failing space,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be a tough road to get them to change their minds to see why we need to do things differently. So it can be tough going into a new space as a principal, and you hope that you do get at least the 5 years to turn the school around, because
Mm-hmm.
that's when you're going to start to see things happening. But then all of that, David, depends on who's in the superintendent seat and who's in those district level seats. So there's lots of layers to what's happening on a school campus.
Mm-hmm. I'm going backward again. I'm going back to selling and buying. In my readings, I've come across the idea that you can get anyone, just about anyone, to do anything if they know and understand the why. So, what's your experience, and have you, in your selling the vision, what's your experience and your observation about the effectiveness of people knowing the why?
We start with our why. I start with my why. I share my story as to why I'm in education. I didn't choose education in a sense. I kind of happened into it, but I've stayed in it because of the benefits of it and because of my passion for making sure that students have a voice, right? So helping teachers find their why. They know why, but they probably haven't revisited it in a while. So sometimes you have to jog their memory and help them understand, like, you got into this for a reason. What's that reason? And have you shared that out loud with anyone? And so getting them to be open to share their why, because once you get them to do that, now you can start talking about, okay, so this is the vision of the school. Here's my why. Here's your why. Let's bring them together and let's work for the best interest of the kids.
Mm-hmm. I have other questions, but I guess we better move on to your other topics. So we have work collaboratively and cohesively, be willing to do the work, motivate others. Where would you like to go next?
We're just going to go right in order, working
Okay.
collaboratively and cohesively. So with leadership teams, especially that core team, we have to work together collaboratively, because the expectation is that you take that work ethic out into the school teams. So if the leadership team with the principal, if we're struggling, then the grade level teams are going to struggle.
Mhm.
So we're modeling the expected behaviors for our campus. So when they see us working together, maybe we're doing walkthroughs together, maybe we are analyzing data together, maybe we are in a PLC together, maybe we're doing a professional learning session together. We have to come as one united front. And we're portraying that to the teachers, because we want to model for them what we expect to see in their grade level teams.
I fully understand that, which leads me to the next question of how do you build teams? I've read lots of things over the years, and then, of course, I've done lots of different jobs, and one of the first steps in putting together an effective group is team building. And
Yes.
there are lots of team building exercises, there are retreats, all kinds of things people do to make a cohesive team. What is your approach?
I just had this conversation today with a colleague. I've used the same protocol for the last 10 years. The compass points is simple: north, south, east, or west. Are you a north? Are you a south? Are you a east? Are you a west? It's easy to remember. And I start with that within my core leadership team. And once we understand our different personalities and what makes us tick, what challenges we have with working with other folks, then we can take that out into the schools team. So we start with us as a leadership team. I take it to my site leadership team. I empower them to take it to their grade level teams. So everybody on the campus, they know, if you ask them what directionality are you in terms of personality, they're going to be able to tell you I'm a north, south, east, or west. And they're going to tell you what that means. They're going to be able to tell you I work well with this direction. I don't work well with this direction, but this is how we can work well together. So it's just understanding people's personalities. Everybody brings something to the table. We're not going to always agree, but how do we work together respectfully and still accomplish the goal? Because, right, we're working towards that vision, right? So how do we do that collectively, cohesively, collaboratively, and respectfully?
All right, I want to touch your keyword, respectfully. What does someone do when the chemistry is not there? The chemistry is just not there. Or even it might clash. It might be an explosive combination of personalities. How do you manage that?
I'm going to tell you what I tell the kids, because it's the same for adults. I don't have to like you, but I do have to respect you. I'm going to respect you because you're a human being. I'm going to respect you because you're either a teacher on my campus or a student in the building. I'm going to respect you for who you are and the fact that you show up every day. I don't necessarily have to like you, and I don't live with you, so that's okay. But I know how to work with you to accomplish the goal.
So, do you establish group norms?
Absolutely.
And how would you encompass that approach, that attitude within your group norms?
So you're asking people, especially your core team, like, what do you need to feel safe in this group setting? What do you need to be able to do the work? So asking people what they need individually, and then we bring that together and we go through and we look at everybody's list and we establish what are the most important things. What are the things we have to have that we just can't live without? And then what can we just kind of not necessarily pushed to the side, but it's not a core value for this team, the norms, like you said. And we go from there. And those are the things that we remember. And as we're having our meetings, someone's in charge of making sure that those things are brought to the forefront every time.
Elisa, that was the next question I was going to ask. I remember back in different times in different settings and in meetings, official meetings, there would be a sergeant at arms. And the role of the sergeant at arms was to ensure that people, we didn't call them norms in those days. There might have been Robert's Rules of Order or something else to keep people in line, let's say. And the sergeant at arms had the authority to fine you if you did not abide by the rules. So the person who is encouraging others to adopt and adhere to the group norms, what authority does that person have? Or does the person even need to exercise authority?
Because that team of folks is usually small, I'm talking about my core leadership team. The goal is to be able to motivate other people or encourage them to do what's right. And remember, taking people back to their why. Why are you here? Are you here to argue with us? Are you here to be challenging? Or are you here to help teachers learn and help students learn? Are you here to move the school forward? And so just being comfortable enough to have those conversations with people and being okay with someone on that team. So if it's a 4-person team, we've established relationships so that I can go to you, you can come to me. And I tell everybody, just because I'm the principal doesn't mean that I have all the answers. It just means that I climb through a few more hoops than everybody else. But my knowledge, I'm learning from you just like you're learning from me. And I'm not coming in with a hammer. That's not my role. My role is to encourage you, to motivate you to want to do the work because of your why.
Okay, we better go on to your next bullet. Be willing to do the work. Which implies that you've come across people who were not willing to do the work. So would you differentiate those who are willing to do the work and those who are not willing to do the work?
People that are willing to do the work, they are the ones that are texting me, Lisa, we have this professional learning session. Did we think about this? This is what I thought of. So it's outside of the school hours that they're still thinking about the why. They're thinking about the vision. They're thinking about how to motivate others. They're going to do the work. Those are the people that say, Lisa, you know what? I'm an early bird. I will get to the school at 6 o'clock and I'm going to make sure that these things are in place. Or if we know, if district tells us we have to do something, and I'm like, okay, this is a lot, but how are we going to get it done? They're the ones that are thinking, you know what? We can do this with teachers. We can do this with teachers. We can do this with parents. We can do this with students. Like they're thinking ahead of me. The best teams that I have had, people on my teams were 2 steps ahead of me sometimes. And that was great because that meant I didn't always have to be the one to say, we're going to do this. I want my team members to be able to say, Lisa, this is what we're doing. Okay. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what we're doing because it's in alignment with what we said we were going to do. So those people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and put in that extra work without me having to find them to do it or just beg them to do it. I don't want to have to beg you to do anything. If you're not willing to do the work and get dirty, and in some of these schools, you just have to get downright and dirty with the work because that's the makeup of the campus. So it takes a lot of hard work. It takes dedication to the work, and you got to be passionate about it. Like your why is what's driving you. And those are the people that you want on your team.
Before we went live, you and I were chatting, and you said something to the effect of moving people on if they're not, I guess, willing to do the work. Are there some special methods, techniques you use to move people on who might be toxic, let's say, toxic to the environment or an anchor that's keeping their grade level or keeping their department from moving?
I will say, as a leader, that's probably my least favorite conversation. But you learn over the years that sometimes you have to have the conversation. I had a mentee once. She was a coach and also in a mentoring, a principal program. And she was gung ho at first, but she kind of started slacking a little bit. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? If you're going to be a leader at this school, you got to be willing to put in the extra hours. And she's like, no, I turn off my phone at 5 o'clock and I don't do emails. I don't do any work at home. I was like, okay. And you want to be a principal? Okay. So it's having those conversations, but remembering that people are human. She was aspiring to be a principal. So how do you have this conversation with someone that wants to do the job that you're doing, but she has an unrealistic view of the job?
Mm-hmm.
So having those hard conversations with people. I remember early on, I used to script out my conversations because I wanted to make sure that I said the right thing because I knew my personality and I didn't want to
Uh-oh. We're frozen.
now.
There you go.
There I am.
There you go.
This might not be for you right now, or you might
Yeah.
want to consider something else.
Mm-hmm.
But, just knowing who the person is, knowing what their goals are,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to move them in the direction. But you got to do it gently.
Yeah.
You got to do it with love.
Okay. Well, we have around 2 minutes remaining, 3 minutes remaining. Let's touch your last bullet. Motivate others.
Some people are not motivated on their own. Some people need other people to kind of push them. And that, to me, that's the beauty of having my core leadership team, because where people might not receive it from Lisa, they might receive it from David because they can connect with David's personality, and David can get them to move mountains in that third grade classroom. So my job is to empower my leadership team members so that they take it out and they motivate the rest of the school so that we can move them forward.
Mm-hmm. I have this theory about motivation. And the theory is that there's no such thing as motivating someone. There's such a thing as putting someone in a position where he or she must do or is encouraged or decides to do what you want him or her to do. But it always comes from within. So even if I were to hold a gun to your head and say, Lisa, you're going to show up on time or I'm going to shoot you, I place you in a position where you must make a decision. And so it's always internal. I guess that's my argument, that motivation is always internal. You would hope that you wouldn't need to place someone in an either or situation, but motivation is indeed internal. Well, Lisa, we've talked about a lot of things here. What would be the takeaway you'd like people to have?
I think I want people to know that it's possible to build a strong team. And you, as the leader, you have to be clear about what you want that team to do. You have to be clear of your why so that you can guide your leadership team into their why, and just making sure that your team understands the big goal. What's the vision? And how do we get there? How do we execute it? And making sure you have the right people on your team. Because there's nothing like having a team with the wrong people. You're just not going to move the bus. So those would be my takeaways.
And the call to action, what do you want people to do with this information? Oh, we froze again. Oh.
I go, okay,
there you go.
There I am. Don't be afraid to be a leader. If you feel like it's tugging at you, step out there and do it. Look for people that can mentor you. Look for people that can coach you to where you want to be. But I think everybody has leadership qualities. It just has to be developed. And so find somebody that's going to help you develop your leadership qualities.
And if people want to know more or they want to hire you, how can they contact you?
iLeadEducationServices.com is where you will find my website. And part of my role with iLead Education is to develop leaders, new leaders, school leaders, teacher leaders. That's what we do. So feel free to find me on the website, find me on LinkedIn, Lisa Norwood Williams, or on Facebook, iLead Education Services.
Well, Lisa, thank you for being our guest tonight. Lisa Norwood Williams is from Phoenix, Arizona, and she is currently a district director for a nonprofit, and she is also the CEO of iLead Education Services, LLC. And I'm David Johnson from Transform Ed Consulting, and another shout out to my friend and colleague, Cassandra Williams.